Okay, so today we'll be looking at some web components like input fields. Right, I shared. We also try and design this page. So it's just a form, simple form, first name, last name, country, phone number, email address, cost to enroll, and then goes to achieve. All right, so we'll be looking at this. This form is comprises of an input field. So we look at what input fields are, drop downs or select menus are. Yeah, I think we have the phone number field. Then we have the text area. So this is basically like three types of input fields. So we can look at Spectrum. So Spectrum is, as I mentioned earlier, Adobe's design system. So we can learn from them. So if you come to the component section, they have the input section here. And you have the input section here. So you have checkboxes and all. So I'll quickly run through this. All right, so checkboxes allow users to select multiple items from a list, right? A list of individual items, or to mark one individual item as selected. So the checkboxes, if you have like a list of options here, the user can select either one or more. Right. So this is how like checkboxes look like. So it mostly has like a label, a corresponding label to it. So if you scroll down, you get to see the anatomy of a checkbox. So this is how a checkbox that is not selected. Right, let me zoom. Checkbox that is not selected. This is how it looks like. Then this is like a label. When it's selected, this is how it looks like. The intermediate. And so you can scroll, when you scroll down, it talks more about the label, the selection, the sizes. You can have different sizes and all. All right, so you can go into details, but on this call, I'll just throw light on when to use it and how to use it. Right? So checkboxes, if you have options and you want the user is allowed to select one or more of the options, you can use checkboxes. You also have checkbox group. So basically it's you grouping the checkboxes. So you have one group here, another group here. Right? So it's the same. So a checkbox group is a grouping of checkboxes that are related to each other. Right? So I can even have one group, maybe foods. Then I have fufu, ache, jollof. Then I have here maybe courses or something. Maybe there's UI, UX design, there's marketing or digital marketing, and there's maybe some front end programming and all those stuff. And so these are grouped checkboxes, right? So let's skip color area slider for now. Let's look at combo box. So combo boxes combine a text entry with a picker menu. So a text entry, I'm zooming. So you have a text entry and a picker menu, right? Allowing users to filter longer lists to only the selections matching the query. So you realize that the person has typed MA. So they're only seeing a list of stuff that start with MA, right? So breaks down the anatomy, mostly has a label. Right, mostly has a label. This is the value, the thing that the person typed. Sometimes they have a help text, right? I'll go into details in the input field, and they also have the field button. So when you click on this button, that's when it shows this option. Later. So we also have field labels. So field labels give context to the information that a user needs to enter. So the field label is basically this, where you have the email address. So when you see this is what we call the input field, where you have this rectangle. This is what we call the input field. So a label gives what? More context, or gives context to the information that the user needs to input. So if this input field is just there without the label, you may not be sure of what to enter, right? Or the information to provide. But when you add the email address text here, which is called field label, it gives more context. And the same thing here. So they're using radio buttons. I'll speak more on radio buttons. So there's account type. So they need you to select which account type, whether admin, member, or guest, right? So you can select any of the account types. So you can also go down to some of this is where field labels are used, like so a label like this. And the very popular one is the text field. So I'm scrolling down to that. So the text field. So the text fields allow users to input custom text entries with a keyboard. Various options can be shown with the field to communicate the input, to communicate the input requirements. So we have email here. So this is the field label. We have password, which is the field label. So it means that for this input field, you need to enter maybe your email. For this input field, you need to enter a password. You see how the password shows, it's kind of hidden. Then you also have here an input field that I think the person is supposed to enter job title, and they put into brackets optional. Right. You also notice that there's a text at the bottom. So this is what we call helper text. All right. So it also gives more context. So though they are saying it's job title, but they are trying to also show you some examples. So maybe an example is designer, lawyer, and all those stuff. So it gives you more context on the information you're supposed to provide here. If you scroll down to the anatomy, right? So you see this is the label. Notice that some forms they put this asterisk there, maybe make it red to indicate that it's required, right? Some people will put into brackets required. They write the text required. It's everybody in the way they handle stuff, right? And also based on what their users understand. So you have your value here, what you type here. You also have help text. This is what I said. So help text can be a description or even used as error message. So it may be this field is required and you don't fill it. You can just indicate an error message here to show that, oh, this field is required, right? Some input fields have like a character count. So maybe the more when you are typing, then it'll be counting the number of characters you've entered. Then here they have like validation marker. So maybe if the data you provided is what is expected, they'll just indicate that, okay, this is the right information you provided. So you can also go further to read more about it. But at least today we look at text fields and text areas, the radio and checkboxes. So with the text area, it's similar to the text field, right? But it gives the user the option to type in more text, right? So if you notice, you realize that this area, the person can actually like type a lot. So a text area lets a user input a longer amount of text than the standard text field. It can include all the standard validation options supported by text field component, right? It's similar to the text field, just that basically it has the height is quite longer than the input field, which allows you to enter more text, right? So the anatomy is similar. It has the label, the value, helper text. If you want to have a validation marker, if you want to have a character count. So these things are not compulsory for input field, but based on your use case, if you think it will help the users achieve their goal, I think you can also add that. Then we've looked at checkboxes, we've looked at combo box, we've looked at text field, text area. The one thing I want us to look at is the radio. So a radio group is a group of radio buttons that are related. I need to find radio buttons. Where is my eyes? Why am I not seeing radio buttons? Let me just look for it. Interesting. It's not here. But basically, radio buttons allows you to select. If you have an option, they allow you to select only one option, right? Compared to the checkbox, right? So with the checkbox, you can select one or more, right? But with radio buttons, they allow you to only select one option. So maybe you are buying a dress or a shoe. They ask for the size. You are expected to select one option for that particular shoe. So your size, whether it's small, medium, or large, or if it's a t-shirt you're buying, like select whether it's small. You can't select for one shirt like you want, unless you're buying multiples, that's fine. But when you use radio buttons, when you have an option, you want the person to select only one option out of it, right? But so that's the difference. So radio buttons and checkboxes. Checkboxes, you can select multiple. Radio buttons, you can select one. One thing that also helps me to know the differences how the whole concept of radio buttons came out. So it said that I don't know if you still have those old radios around, right? They used to have these things that you can press on. So if you want this particular station, you can press that, and the radio is tuned on to some frequency, and you can listen to whatever they're saying on that station, right? So you see, with that one, you can only listen to one radio station at a time. So you press on just only, though you have options, you can only press on one and listen to it at a time. So that's how like these radio buttons also came up. You only get to select one option, right? Unlike the check boxes, you get to select multiple, right? So these are some of the things, some of the components, right? So there are a lot. So these are inputs. There are a lot. You can check out navigations and all those stuff. But today, for this design, you notice that we have input fields here, right? This is also like a combo box. And they also have an input for like phone number. So we try and replicate this. I'll do well not to use any advanced stuff, whether it's auto layout component. I'll just do it basic text, shapes, and all those stuff. The basics that we've learned, right? So I'll try and replicate this. Are we on the same page? Just to be sure. Mike, do you get it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let me bring this here so I'm trying to replicate this, right? So I'll build everything. So maybe one of the calls, probably will talk more on grids and how to use grids, which frame design use. Let's probably use this. That's smaller. So there is so I want to replicate this text. So join the community and study with marker. Right. So I'll come here and then just type in to study with marker. Right. Then there's also the join community. Is it join our community or join the community? Okay. Join the community. So you notice that the font size is right. So 14. This is bold. I'm using a typeface called Giro. Right. So let me just make sure I'm using the same. So this is 16 bold, and this is 32 bold, right? And this has this color. So this is 16 bold. So mostly on 32. So let me just send it. On desktop or web interfaces, you notice the font sizes they mostly use is 16, but it also depends on the typeface. So this typeface is 0. There are some typefaces that they are probably super small, so you may have to use a bigger font size for your base font size you use. So you're using 16 here, and this is 32. Right, maybe you keep it as black. Then now you want to draw or want to design the input field, the first name, right? So most of our input field, we have what's the field label or the label. So this is first name. So name here, so first name, right? Then you need to draw you need to design, why do I keep saying draw? You need to design the input field itself. Right? So we have the label, we need the input field. But notice that the input field has some grid text, which is like example. So this is what we call placeholder, right? So mostly if you go into some input fields, I don't know if I can show an example. Yeah, so an example is, you notice here, in the design system spectrum, you notice there's this text search, right? Once I start typing, it goes, right? When I erase, it's there. So this is what we call the placeholder. And this is the actual value you are, or the text you are typing, right? So let's say I'm looking for input field. Notice that the placeholder, it's gone, right? It's the meaning is exactly what the name says. It's a placeholder text, right? So sometimes people use it to also like a helper text. Instead of having a helper text at the bottom, some people also use the placeholder to also guide you on what they're supposed to do. So we need to design this with a placeholder. So let's go to our screen. Let me duplicate this. Since this text is black, let me use a gray to differentiate between the placeholder. Maybe this is fair enough. Let me call this placeholder. Right. Let me call this placeholder. Then I have to now design my input field. So the rectangle, let's make this 40. Again, I'm not going to use auto layouts. I'm not going to use components, any of those advanced features just yet. Once we understand the basics, you can also sort, you will get there. So the corner radius, you notice that I've changed all the size to 8. So now that I have this, I want to apply a stroke, right? So maybe the stroke, I want to use, let's say 7A, 7A. But it's not, yes, maybe then the fill can be white or maybe transparent, right? Now I bring my placeholder, bring it in front. So you can use command, then bring this, the parentheses, the close one. So I bring this text here. Right. I like to be a little bit accurate. I mostly use the 8-bit point, but I can use maybe 8. Yeah, or you can even go further, maybe 16. So this is my placeholder text. This is my input field. So now I have to bring the 2. If you like, you can even stretch this. Let me make sure it's also 16. Bring the 2 here. Right. So I can group this. So this is my placeholder text. Let me make sure it's in the middle. Good. This is my placeholder text, and this is my input field. So let's say input field. So I can group them and call it, let's say, text field. And I can still call this input field. I'm using input field. Right. Field. Great. So this is the label. So I can just bring this a bit close. The spacing can be, let's say, 4 or 2. Right. And I can also group this. Right. So you notice that I've designed my input field. So it's quite similar to this one, right? And here you notice that so first name, so I can do last name and country. So let me just make sure the width is something I'm okay with. Let me make this 300. Nice. Let me change, reduce, make this a little bit gray. So I can just duplicate this. So command, then I paste again, just drag. Right. So I check the space. I press my option, then I hover my cursor on the objects or any object, it gives me the spacing. So I want this to be 24, at least for now. All right. So this one will be last name. So I just come in and change it, last name. All right. So even the place that if you want to use an example, so you can use example, let's say John. Then here, example, let's say Asari. Right. So now we've done our first name and last name. So now we are going to the country. So the country is more like the combo box. Right. So if I go to input field, combo box. Right. So we want the people to select or at least search within some options. Someone can say that for country, I want you to select one country. So I want to show radio, a radio button, right? So let me try and show an example. But it will work, right? It will equally work. But sometimes I think it will make you can't list. I'm asking, are you going to list all the countries? Africa has like what 54, and you're going to list all the countries. So sometimes you ask yourself, the decision I'm making or the strategy I'm using in my design, does it really help the user maybe find the country that they are actually looking for? Right. So sometimes, but let me try and illustrate that. Is it not? Okay, cool. So if I do, let's say Ghana, unless you have like limited countries you want the people to select, maybe right now with Marcus course, maybe it's only available to people in, let's say Ghana. Let me reduce this to 16. So maybe this is available to only, which one is centered. Right, so I can group this. Video button. Right, so maybe it's only available to Ghana, let's say Nigeria, let's say Kenya. So if it's just three, if it's not a lot of options and you need a person to select at least one, maybe using a radio button will be better because they can easily like glance through and make their decision. But if it's a lot, if it's a lot of countries, or when you have a long list of options, if you are going to imagine doing this like with so many countries, and you're saying that a user should look for their country, imagine all the countries in the world. You're saying that the user should like go through this and look for their country. It will be tedious, right? But if it's just three, going with radio buttons makes so much sense, right? So maybe the person will select maybe Ghana. So this is how they selected radio buttons. So maybe Ghana, this is what you go with, right? But what we have here is a drop down of all the countries, right? So we are using a combo box. So if you want to draw a combo box, you notice that the combo box has like a drop down icon here. Right, so that's like the major difference between that and the other input for the text field. So I'll still maintain this here. When you're done, we'll take it out. Or let me just take it to the side. Let me take it to the side. And then change this to country. And just have, let's say, select country here. Then we need the arrow here. So you notice that these ones have similar things. Like when you see this, it's like there's a drop down list, right? So you can go with, let's look for drop down icon for this one, right? So we can come and paste this. Let me delete this one. You can come and paste this in the group. Make sure that it's in the group, right? Then come and paste this in. Right. You can do what to name your layers. I know there's always an argument with people naming their layers. I know. So you can do what to name this. Maybe you can just call it country. Or country selector. All right, you can do this for the same thing. So this is last name. Last name, and this is first name. Nice. So you've done that's for the country. Nice. We need phone number, email, course enroll. Right. So I can just quickly do this. Pause. Let me see. Pause. Right. So let's say this would be select course. Right. We have phone number. So phone number mostly every country has a country code unless you are closing it down to maybe a specific country. But we also have this drop down. If you see, there's this drop down here, so people can select more like countries or any countries they prefer. So mostly this will also act like a combo box. And I don't know if that's a product I can see. Let's see Airbnb. Let me see if they have that example in there. Let me try to log in. So you see, they also have this. So they're even using the browser's default. So they have the country code here and they have a drop down. So when you click on it, you select the country. Right. So this is an example. It may not be the best, but still works for their users. So we can come back to this. So here we can just select the country code from this. So you can also design this. So I can even just bring the flag here. So this is phone number. Right. So now we need the drop down closer here. We need this. Yeah, so let me make it 233. Right. Mostly the placeholder is lighter than that's why I'm using a lighter tint or shade of gray. Right. So you notice this, but because this is is a value, a selected value, so let's go with black as for our value. And I can also paste the flag or the country flag here. And let me make sure that they are all in line. And cool. And control the spacing. So maybe this can be 4, because this is also big. So this is something you can also learn from like design. Visually, the person who's looking at when you're looking at it, you only see the distance between this and this text. Right. This is the distance, but because the icon is in a frame, you will be tempted to use the frame space. You get it? So I'll still reduce the size. I'll not make it I'll not take it from the frame. I'll just bring it closer. So 10 minutes. Oh my goodness. So I just bring it closer and this should work. So we have the phone number or the country code selector here, right? We can still bring in another placeholder here. So I select this group, input field and paste this. Now I can just bring the placeholder. Then maybe just put 000000. Right. So this is how it works. So we have phone number in here now. So now let's see what we need. So you need email and we need goals to achieve. Right. So let me paste this, copy this. So we need email. So email is also a text field. So we just need, you can just take this one, option or alt, click and drag, enter, yeah, email address. An example is maybe John Sorry at gmail.com. Mute it. Then we have our course. Then the last one is the text area, the one we spoke about. So this text area is a longer or is a bigger text field, which allows you to type a lot, right? You can have a lot in there. So what we'll do is we will take this input field, we'll click into it and get the input field here. Then we'll drag it. Or we can just increase the height here. Let's make it 150. Right, quite big. Let's make it 150. And let's reduce it. I think 120 is fair. Right. So yeah, this is goals, right? Goals to achieve. Then you can have an example, or you can use maybe type here or something. We go to use an example. So we have this. So now we have all our stuff sorted out. So let me just select all of them, arrange them, make sure they are really spaced out. So the spaces between them is necessary. Now let me make it 16 and bring it to the top. Yeah, so it's in line with this space between them. I want it 24. Okay, cool. So we have this. So now we need the button. Right, button, we've designed this so many times. I'm not going to use auto layout for this. So I'll just draw rectangle, still using the corner radius, the same corner radius. At least the components should look consistent, the styling and all. So I'm using 8 here, so I also use 8 for the button. I select 8, then I come and type in here, make it centered. Type here, let's say, I think it's continue, right? So I'll make it a bit bold. So 0 bold. Try and center those two, right? And I can group it. So I call this button. Now I can click on this and press I so that I can go and pick the color. All right, so I just click on it. Okay, so that's the text is drawing community. So let me copy this text. And paste. So control shift so that it doesn't change the style. So control shift then. So I need to change the text to white. The contrast here is not good. It will be difficult for people to see. So I have to change it to white. I think this is fair enough. Right. So the spacing between this is 16. So mostly I'd like to either double it. So from the button, probably I'll use 24. All right, so now we are good. We have our form here for marker, steady with marker. So let me take this out so that we can work on it later. So the next thing is the right side, which is quite straightforward. So you can just draw a rectangle here. Right, you take this. Now I want to add an image. So if you want to add an image, you can come here, click, choose image. If you have the image on your PC, so you can upload it, right? But I would like to use the plugin. So there's a chat. Collins has raised his hand. Sorry. Please, you can go ahead. Hello, Collins.
Hello, Fifi.
Yeah.
Good evening. I think I joined just at 8:30, but you had already started. So I wanted to announce my presence, I think.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
welcome. It's been recorded, so
Okay, thank you.
so if you want to, as we've gone through, you can go to plugins, then you look for Pexels. I like to use their plugin. We need an image, the same image. I think I can search for Python or coding or something. Whilst you still have this rectangle selected, so once it's there, so you just click on it, and then we'll download the image into so you have it. One trick I like to use is sometimes the images you use, let me also add this image to it, so to replace it. You notice when I added an image, so now there are 2 images here. If I add, I don't want any snake. If I add this, notice that now the images will become 3. So you can choose to hide and show the ones that you want, right? So let's say we go with this. And notice that sometimes the images come with their own colors and maybe it's not really aligned with your brand color. So you can say that for Marcus own, this is his color, right? This is the brand color. So sometimes you don't want any other design or colors conflicting too much with it, right? So one trick I do is I come and click on this plus, right? And I add a background on top of the image. And sometimes I try to use some of the colors, the brand colors. So yeah, I can change it to this. Then just reduce the opacity small to like, it's not that small, but I can use it more. Maybe 25 or 10. Something, it depends on the image or how best you want it. Right? You can even go further to control the blend modes and all. Whether you want to multiply, like when I want it, so now I can do. So you can tone down the images and all the stuff. So yeah, so you can just try and play with these things. Sometimes they work, sometimes a bit difficult to get it right. So I've toned it down compared to this. You notice that this is the white and all those stuff that I've toned it down a bit, like using the same brand colors. So it's something you can also try. So yes, we are done with replicating. So this is what we did. This is what we're supposed to replicate, and we have something similar here. So yeah, we're good. We have a minute more. So if there are any questions,